Hey there, welcome to WTF History, the channel where we dig into the wildest, weirdest, and most heart-wrenching stories from the past. Today, we're stepping into the world of medieval Europe, where power, betrayal, and politics shaped lives in ways that'll make your jaw drop. Picture this. It's November 1st, 1396, and St. Paul's Cathedral in London is glowing with the light of 1,000 candles, their flames flickering against the towering Gothic windows. The organ's deep notes echo through the stone walls, vibrating in your chest as a royal procession glides down the aisle. The crowd is buzzing, nobles whispering, craning their necks to see the bride. But this isn't your typical royal wedding. The bride is Isabelle of France, and she's 6 years old. Yeah, you heard that right. A tiny girl, barely able to carry the weight of her oversized crown, is about to marry Richard II, the 29-year-old King of England, who's waiting at the altar in shimmering golden silks. She's clutching a doll under her arm, her little face pale with confusion. This isn't a fairy tale. It's a political deal dressed up in pomp and ceremony, and it's about to change the fate of two nations. Let's dive into the story of Isabelle of France, the forgotten child queen of England, whose life was a roller coaster of sacrifice, loss, and resilience. We're starting in 1389 at the Louvre Palace in Paris, where Isabelle is born on November 9th. She's the fourth daughter of King Charles VI of France and his wife, Isabelle of Bavaria. Sounds like a charmed life, right? Not so much. France is a mess, caught in the grip of the 100 Years' War with England, a conflict that's been bleeding the country dry for decades. On top of that, Charles VI isn't your average king. He's only 24 when Isabelle is born, but he's already showing signs of the madness that'll earn him the nickname Charles the Mad. Imagine a king who sometimes thinks he's made of glass, refusing to let anyone touch him for fear he'll shatter. Other times, he's sprinting through the palace, screaming about invisible enemies chasing him. For a little girl like Isabelle, growing up in this chaos is like living in a house where the rules change every day. One moment, her father's smiling at her. The next, he doesn't even know who she is. Her mother, Isabelle of Bavaria, isn't much better. She's ambitious, cunning, and more interested in power than parenting. Chroniclers of the time call her dissolute. France is torn apart by war and internal feuds between factions like the Armagnacs and Burgundians. Across the Channel, England's not doing much better. King Richard II, who's been ruling since he was a boy, is struggling to keep his throne. He's lost his first wife, and of Bohemia, and he's facing rebellions, a drained treasury, and nobles who think he's more artist than king. Richard loves poetry, music, and throwing lavish parties, but that doesn't win him many friends in a country itching for stability. In 1396, a glimmer of hope appears, a chance for peace between France and England. The French, led by the Duke of Berry, see an opportunity to end the fighting and secure their borders. Their plan? Marry Isabelle to Richard. The deal comes with a massive dowry, pound 800,000, think millions today, and a 28-year truce. For France, bankrupted by war, it's a lifeline. For England, it's a chance to stabilize Richard's shaky rule. There's just one problem. Isabelle's 6 years old, and even in the Middle Ages, that's young for a bride. Some of Richard's advisors argue they should wait until she's 12, when marriages were typically consummated, but Richard's desperate. He needs the money and the peace more than he needs moral high ground. The negotiations are brutal, like haggling over livestock. Ambassadors from both sides argue over Isabelle's dowry, her age, her future, as if she's not a person but a contract. Nobody asks what she thinks. She's too young to even grasp what's happening. In October 1396, the deal is done. Isabelle is packed off to England, a political gift to seal the alliance. At the Louvre, the farewell is a grand show for the English ambassadors. Charles VI, in a rare moment of clarity, blesses his daughter with tears in his eyes, maybe sensing the weight of what he's doing. Isabelle of Bavaria, though, is all business, treating the moment like a successful trade. Isabelle, clutching her favorite doll and her tiny pet dog, doesn't understand. To her, this is an adventure, maybe a short trip. She doesn't know she's leaving her childhood behind forever. The journey from Calais to London is exhausting. A parade of lavish receptions in every town they pass. Local lords compete to throw the grandest parties, but Isabelle, overwhelmed and homesick, just wants to go home. She cries, clings to her dog, and asks for her mother, but there's no turning back. When she reaches London, St. Paul's Cathedral is a sight to behold, decked out with French and English banners, lit by thousands of candles, filled with the sound of Latin and French choirs. Richard, in his golden robes, looks every bit the refined king. But you have to wonder what's going through his head as he watches this tiny girl walk toward him. He loved his first wife, and deeply, and marrying a child can't feel right, even for him. During the ceremony, Isabelle is silent, her small face lost under her crown. The Archbishop of Canterbury kneels to slip a ring onto her tiny finger, and when she's declared Queen of England, there's no joy in her eyes, just confusion and a growing sense of fear. She's 6 years old, carrying the weight of 2 nations on her shoulders, and her story is just beginning. Isabelle's new life in England is a strange mix of privilege and isolation. Richard II, to his credit, treats her more like a daughter than a wife. He's not a monster. He knows she's just a kid. She's given her own apartments at Westminster Palace, a manor house all to herself, and a team of servants whose only job is to keep her comfortable. French tutors are brought in so she can keep speaking her language, and she's allowed to hold onto her customs, like the food she loves or the prayer she says. Her little dog becomes her constant companion, a furry reminder of home. For a while, it seems like things might be okay. Isabelle's days are filled with lessons, reading, embroidery, courtly manners, and she's sheltered from the worst of the political storms brewing around her. She's bright, curious, and sensitive, but she's also lonely. The English court is a maze of whispers and schemes, and Richard's not exactly Mr. Popular. His love for luxury and his heavy-handed rule have made enemies among the nobles, who see Isabelle as a symbol of a truce they don't trust. To the French, she's a deal they've already cashed in. To Isabelle, she's just a girl who misses her family. But the peace Richard hoped for doesn't last. By 1399, his rule is falling apart. His cousin, Henry Bolingbroke, stages a rebellion, claiming he's only after his inheritance. But it quickly spirals into something bigger. Richard is caught off guard, deposed, and locked up in Pontefract Castle. By early 1400, he's dead, likely murdered, though the official story is murky. Isabelle, now 10 years old, is a queen without a king. A widow before she's even a teenager. Her marriage was never consummated. Richard never touched her. Thank goodness, but she's still tied to him by law and politics. Her world, already fragile, shatters. What do you do with a child queen when her husband's gone? That's the problem facing Henry IV, the new king. Isabelle is a legitimate queen, crowned and recognized, but there's no heir to complicate things. The bigger issue? That £800,000 dowry is gone, spent on Richard's lavish court and war debts. Sending her back to France would mean returning the money, which England doesn't have. So, Henry decides to keep her as a golden prisoner at Havering Castle, a comfortable but isolated estate where she's watched closely. At Havering, Isabelle's life is a gilded cage. She's got her toys, her dog, her French tutors, but she's not free. The English guards keep a close eye on her, and the weight of her situation starts to sink in. She's smart enough to sense the tension. Henry's using her as a bargaining chip, hoping to leverage her in future talks with France. Her letters from this time are gut-wrenching. She writes to her father, Charles VI, begging to come home. I'm kept here like a prisoner, far from all I love, without hope of return, she says. Her words carrying a pain no 10-year-old should know. She's growing up fast, forced to understand betrayal and diplomacy way before her time. Back in France, Her father's madness makes him an unreliable ally, and her mother, Isabelle of Bavaria, is too busy scheming to care much about her daughter's pleas. For 3 years, from 1399 to 1401, Isabelle waits. A queen in name only, her childhood slipping away with every passing day. Finally, in 1401, after months of diplomatic wrangling, a deal is struck. Isabelle is allowed to return to France. The dowry issue is brushed aside. England keeps the money, and France gets its princess back. It's a messy compromise, but for Isabelle, it's a chance to go home. When she arrives at the Louvre, she's 12 years old, but she's not the same girl who left 6 years earlier. The trauma of being sent away, married off, widowed, and held captive has aged her beyond her years. She's seen the world for what it is, a place where kings and queens, even children, are just pieces in a bigger game. But France isn't the safe haven she hoped for. The court is still a mess, split between rival factions, with Charles VI's madness growing worse and the war with England dragging on. Her mother sees her as a political inconvenience, a reminder of a failed alliance. Isabelle tries to find her place, living quietly with a small household and her ever-loyal dog, but there's a heaviness to her. She's learned the hard way that love and loyalty are rare in a world ruled by power. In 1405, at 16, Isabelle's mother strikes another deal. She's married off again, this time to Charles of Orléans, a young French nobleman and poet. Unlike her marriage to Richard, this one feels different. Charles is closer to her age, kind, and genuinely cares for her. They share a love for poetry and music, and for the first time, Isabelle feels something like happiness. It's not perfect, the marriage is still a political move, but there's real affection between them. They spend their days writing verses, talking about art, building a life together. For a moment, it seems like Isabelle might finally get to live for herself. But fate has other plans. In 1407, just 2 years into their marriage, Charles is captured by the English at the Battle of Agincourt. He's hauled off to England as a prisoner, where he'll stay for 25 years. Isabelle, only 18, is left alone again, a widow in all but name, back in the cold embrace of the French court. With Charles gone, Isabelle's world shrinks. The Louvre feels more like a prison than ever, with its scheming nobles and her mother's relentless ambition. She gives what little she has to the poor, finding purpose in small acts of kindness. In 1409, Isabelle gives birth to a daughter, Joan of Orléans. Becoming a mother changes her, but it's bittersweet. Joan is a reminder of Charles, still locked away in England, and of the life Isabelle might have had. She looks at her daughter and sees her own past, a girl sent off to marry a stranger, widowed young, trapped by politics. The fear that Joan might face the same fate haunts her. Isabelle pours love into her daughter, teaching her to read, telling her stories, trying to shield her from the court's harsh realities. But her own health is failing. The years of stress and loss have worn her down, and after giving birth, she falls ill. Postpartum complications set in, and in 1409, at just 20 years old, Isabelle dies quietly, her death barely noted by a world that once celebrated her as a queen. Isabelle's passing is a stark contrast to the grandeur of her childhood. There are no candles, no choirs, no pomp. Just a young woman, used up by a system that saw her as a tool. Her daughter, Joan, will grow up without her, and Charles, still a prisoner, won't even know she's gone for years. But Isabelle's story doesn't end with her death. It's a window into a world where children, especially girls, were sacrificed for power. In the Middle Ages, royal daughters were currency, traded to secure alliances or end wars. Isabelle was 6 when she was sent to England, 10 when she was widowed, 12 when she was imprisoned, 16 when she was married again, and 18 when she lost her second husband. Her life was never her own, shaped by the ambitions of kings, queens, and nobles who cared more about treaties than her happiness. Yet, Isabelle was more than a victim. She was resilient, finding ways to cope through poetry, charity, and love for her daughter. She was a person A girl who loved her dog, a teenager who fell in love, a mother who wanted better for her child. Her story forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about the past, how societies normalized child marriage, how power trumped humanity, how children paid the price for peace. And it's not just the past. Today, millions of girls face similar fates, married off before they can choose their own paths. Isabelle's life, though centuries old, echoes in their stories, reminding us that the fight for children's rights is ongoing. Her resilience, her small acts of defiance, her love for her daughter, they're a testament to the human spirit, to the ability to find light in even the darkest moments. So, what does Isabelle of France leave us with? She's a reminder of the human cost of power, of the lives caught in the gears of politics. She's a call to remember the forgotten, to tell the stories of those who didn't get to write their own endings. Her life was a tragedy, but it was also a story of strength, of a girl who carried burdens no child should bear and still found ways to hold onto her humanity. Thanks for joining us on WTF History for this deep dive into Isabelle's life. If her story hit you as hard as it hit us, drop a comment below. Tell us what moment broke your heart or made you angry. And if you want more wild, weird, and heartbreaking tales from the past, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. We've got plenty more where this came from. Until next time, keep questioning, keep wondering, and keep exploring the history that makes you say, WTF?